The air on Zenith Station always smelled like ozone and recycled anxiety, but today it felt heavy enough to choke on. Julian Thorne tugged at his collar, wishing standard-issue diplomatic dress included a little more breathing room. He was just a mid-level trade attaché, the kind of guy who usually handled grain tariffs, not first contact protocols with the Ethan hegemony. But the senior ambassador had come down with a convenient case of Venusian flu, leaving Julian standing on the polished obsidian floor, waiting for a woman who could vaporize the station with a single command. Well, not a woman exactly. Empress Lyra. When the airlock hissed open, the silence in the grand hall wasn't just quiet. It was a physical weight. The Ethon delegation flowed in like liquid mercury, all sharp angles and shifting, iridescent armor. And then there was Lyra. She was taller than Julian expected, her skin a deep, shifting violet that seemed to absorb the light around her. She didn't walk so much as glide, her movements precise, calculated, and terrifyingly graceful. Julian had a speech prepared. It was a good speech. It had words like mutual prosperity and galactic synergy. He had practiced it in the mirror for 3 hours. He stepped forward, the universal translator humming against his jaw. He looked up, intending to meet her eyes, which were terrifyingly intelligent and gold. And his brain just stopped. The political calculus vanished. The trade routes dissolved. I mean, truth is, nobody told him she would look like that. Not scary, just lonely and stunning. Your Imperial Majesty, Julian started, his voice cracking just a little. On behalf of the United Earth Coalition, I must say, he paused. The silence stretched. 1,000 years of diplomatic protocol screamed in his ear, but his gut was louder. You are absolutely breathtaking. It wasn't a whisper. It was accidental treason via compliment. The room didn't just freeze, it petrified. The Ethan guards bristled, their armor engaging with a hum that sounded like an angry hornet's nest. To the Ethan, direct commentary on the royal form was usually a prelude to a challenge duel or an assassination attempt. Julian blinked, realizing what he'd done. Diplomacy disrupted by catastrophic honesty. He waited for the plasma bolt, but Lyra didn't order his execution. She stopped. The shifting violet of her skin rippled, turning a softer, confused shade of indigo along her neck. Her biology was betraying her. Her secondary heart, usually dormant during negotiations, gave a violent, heavy thud against her ribs. She had prepared for lies. She had prepared for flattery designed to manipulate. She hadn't prepared for a human looking at her with wide, panicked, genuine eyes and simply stating a fact. Authenticity often disarms power more effectively than calculation. Breathtaking, she repeated, the translator giving her voice a harmonic, bell-like quality. I apologize, Julian stammered, holding up his hands. I didn't mean to. Well, I did, but not like that. It's just, space is cold and you look like a nebula caught in a bottle. Sorry, I'll stop talking now. The guard stepped forward, weapons raising. Julian squeezed his eyes shut. Leave us, Lyra said. The command was soft, but it hit the room like a shockwave. The Ethan guards hesitated, looking between their Empress and the fragile, soft-skinned human who had just insulted or worshipped her. Your Majesty, a guard clicked. Clear the room, she said, her gaze never leaving Julian's flushed face. I wish to inspect this diplomat privately. As the heavy doors groaned shut, leaving them alone in the vast echoing hall, Julian realized that vulnerability is a strength, even in high-stakes leadership. But right now, it felt a lot like he was about to be eaten. The silence that followed the slamming of the heavy doors was absolute. It wasn't the silence of space, which is empty. This was the silence of a held breath, pressurized and waiting to snap. Julian stood there, his hands still half raised in that pathetic gesture of surrender, watching the Empress of the Ethon hegemony circle him. Akra, she moved like a predatory cat deciding whether to play with a mouse or just swallow it whole. The air around her hummed, literally hummed, with a low-frequency vibration that rattled Julian's teeth. It was a biological feedback loop, her nervous system processing the anomaly standing in front of her. "You feared death," she said finally. Her voice without the crowd to witness it was deeper, resonating in his chest. "I could smell the cortisol spiking in your blood. Yet you spoke. Why?" Julian lowered his hands, feeling foolish. The adrenaline was fading, leaving him with that shaky, hollowed-out feeling you get after almost stepping in front of a bus. He looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the tension in her jaw, the way her shoulders were pulled tight under the iridescent armor. "I don't know," Julian admitted, leaning back against a marble pillar because his knees felt like water. "My filter broke. It happens. We're a messy species, Your Majesty. Sometimes the inside stuff just spills out." Lyra stopped pacing. She tilted her head, her violet skin flushing a lighter, startled lavender. To her, a leader was a fortress. A diplomat was a cipher. To see a creature just stand there, unraveling and admitting to the mess, was baffling. It was also, strangely, the first thing that had felt real in cycles. "The crown weighs heavier than the heart," she whispered, a phrase that didn't quite sync with the translator's rhythm. "That is what my father taught me. To be steel, to be stone. But stone does not breathe." She stepped closer. The heat radiating off her was intense, like standing next to a furnace door. Julian didn't flinch. When that was the thing about humans. We're stupidly adaptable. One minute we're terrified of the monster, the next we're wondering if the monster needs a glass of water. "Stone cracks if you hit it hard enough," Julian said softly. Maybe try being a little less stone. Just for a minute." It was a reckless suggestion. Cultural static filled the air between them. But then Lyra did something unprecedented. She exhaled. It was a long, shuddering sound, like a pressurized airlock finally cycling. Her scales smoothed down. The terrifying hum in the air faded into a gentle, rhythmic thrumming, a purr of relief. "I am exhausted," she confessed, the words tumbling out before she could catch them. "I have 17 treaties to review, and everyone keeps telling me how terrifying I am. It is lonely." "I bet," Julian said. He didn't bow, and he didn't offer a strategic alliance. He just offered a sad, empathetic smile. "If it helps, I'm terrified of you, but I still think you have nice eyes." Lyra stared at him. Then a sound erupted from her throat, a sharp, barking noise. Julian jumped, thinking it was a war cry, until he realized she was laughing. It was a rusty, unused sound, but it was there. "You are a chaotic variable, Julian Thorne," she said, wiping a tear, which was silver, from her cheek. "I should have you airlocked for instability." "Probably," he agreed. Instead, she straightened up, the Empress returning, though the violet of her skin remained soft and warm. "You will stay. You will walk back out there with me, and you will tell me exactly what you think of the Ethon trade proposal. No polished words. Just the mess." "The mess," Julian nodded. "I can do that. I'm great at messes." When the doors opened again, the grand hall was dead silent. The guards tensed. The diplomats held their breath. They expected to see a corpse or a prisoner. Instead, they saw the Empress and the trade attaché walking side by side. There was no formal distance between them, no rigid protocol, just a strange, invisible tether connecting a nervous human and a deadly alien queen. It wasn't the start of a negotiation. It was something far more dangerous and far more permanent. It was a friendship.